Hey guys, another homework assignment. Thank you guys so much for viewing my video. Hopefully this is going to help you in class, and we are going to ask you some homework questions. So even if you didn't understand it from class, hopefully this is going to help. Towards the video, we're going to ask you some questions and have your response. So watch the whole video through and make sure you take your time on the questions. All right. So this is a example of a relationship between sugar and flour. I could tell you that for a certain recipe, you have 8 cups of flour for 28 cups of, 8 cups of sugar for 28 cups of flour. Okay. That would be way too sweet if it was the other way. And my question to you is one, and this is where I actually want you to almost pause the video if you want to check yourself. You don't have to answer this on the video, but answer this off to yourself. What is the constant of variation? And then also, if we call S sugar, actually we'll call it X is the number of sugar and Y is the number of flour. If you were to call those variables, what would be the equation that goes from sugar to flour? So if you kind of check, you could do this on your own and then play the video, or you could just watch the video if you're not sure. So first of all, we're going from sugar to flour. So the first thing is we have to find the constant of proportionality. So remember, if we're going this way, we're doing 28 divided by 8, and that will get you 3.5. That means you're multiplying x times 3.5. That's the constant of proportionality. Now, remember, we got that from doing 28 divided by 8. Now, if I gave you other x's, you could easily find the flour because you could use an equation now because now we know what's being done. So if you want to write an equation, remember, we always take whatever we're going to get to y. So I write y equals, okay, whatever you're going to. And then I'm going to say, well, what are you doing to x? Well, we're multiplying by the constant of proportionality. So the way you write that is 3.5x. Okay? Now, this is the equation that gets you from x to y. So if I told you, for example, the amount of sugar was 12, how much flour would you have to use? Well, 12 is the x. You would put it in x. You put the 12 right here, and it'd be 3.5 times 12, and that would get you this missing part. Okay? So this is the constant proportionality. This is the equation that gets you from sugar to flour. Now, what if I told you that we switched them? So this was 28. This was 8. Well, that changes everything because you're no longer going to have this equation. You're no longer going to have this constant proportionality. In fact, to find this constant proportionality, remember we're going, in this case, now we're going from y to x. So now we have to find out, well, 8 divided by 28. Now we keep talking in class that if you do 8 divided by 28 and get a really weird number. See, when I did 8 divided by 28, I got a really, really weird number. Let me do it again just to make sure it's right. 8 divided by 28. Yeah, I don't love that. So it's actually, you can leave it as that. So when you do the division, that's a fraction. So 8 divided by 28, there's actually nothing wrong with just leaving it. That's the constant proportionality. You're actually multiplying by that fraction, 8/28. Now, if you really want to be great, you could actually make that reduce the fraction, okay? Because 8 and 28, you can divide by 2. And if you divide by 2, you get 4. So I divided that by 2, and if I divide that by 2, and actually, these are both even numbers, so I can divide by 2 again. And I'm going to get 2/7. Now, any of those numbers I would be happy for you to say is the constant of proportionality because you're multiplying by 8/28 or 2/7 or 4/14. Now, if you really, 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 I don't love it, but if you wanted to use that number, we can round that to about 0.29. So if I want to write the equation, I would write, remember, now we're getting to x. So x equals, in order to get to x, I would take y, and I'd multiply by 2/7, which means 2/7 y. I would accept that. I would accept this. You could even have left it as 8/28 y. That's fine. Or if you wanted to use the decimal, which I don't love, 0.29 y, because that's not going to get you an exact answer, but any of these would be the equation. Okay? So now what I want you to do is I want you to look at, we're going to ask you some questions based on a new set of numbers. So I'm going to bring these numbers up, but please feel free to review my video, rewind my video. But now we're going to say sugar is 6 and flour is 37.2. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about this one. Okay. So remember, at first I'm going to ask you some questions going from, this sugar is now back to X and flour is back to Y. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions based on this chart, and then I'm going to ask you to flip it around. Okay, so now that you got some of the questions, I'm going to give you some questions, found the constant of proportionality. I'm also going to ask you some questions to find the equation. But now what I want you to do is I want you to completely turn this around. And now I want you to make this 37.2 and this. Actually, we're going to do you're going to just switch them completely up. So I completely forgot now. Hold on one second. Yeah, it was 6 and 37.2. So now we're going to make this 37.2 and this 6. So now I want you to answer some questions. When we're going from y to x. Okay, so you switched them up, and now we're going to find some new equations and new constant proportionalities.
Hi, guys.
All right, cool.